bobbing when the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing when the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members. Hello and welcome to the Robin Pod Weekly, and after a wire flyer, it's back home to paradise as the Robins welcome St Helens to Sewell Group Craven Park for the penultimate fixture before the Challenge Cup final. Joining me to discuss all the latest goings on down in HU9 and Martin Cripsey and Robin Pod debutant Cam Bibby. We're also joined again by Steve Till for Robins Revisited, and we answer all your questions in question time. Cam, it's the first time on the Robin Pod. Welcome.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks for having us. I couldn't really say no after you'd called one of my mates bluffs. So yeah, nice to be here.
Now, Phil Barrett says you've got a mouthful of gobstoppers. Is that true?
Phil Barrett has a thing or two about having a gobstopper, doesn't he? So bow to his superior knowledge, I think.
Yeah, well, he's never too far away from the sweet trolley, is he?
No.
Martin, great to have you back on the Robin Pod, of course. I mean,
Thanks,
the Robins have been on a great run of form, haven't they? Interestingly, if we beat St Helens, I think it's our best opening, our best run of fixtures since 1966 in terms of our best start of the season. I mean, I don't think you was alive then, Martin, or I don't want to be too presumptuous. Do you remember that? Or,
I'll have been one.
Yeah, of course. You'd have been celebrating the England World Cup victory then?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Martin, your internet connection's not so great, so I'll go to Cam, so while you sort that out. Cam, when we look at Rovers so far this season, obviously forget about the victory over Wigan. Going into that Warrington game, what are your expectations? Because we're in a bit of a funny part of the season now, aren't we? That was the 12th game of the season in terms of Super League. We're obviously coming to the Challenge Cup final. We didn't know what to expect from Warrington, although there was a host of changes for them. What were your expectations leading into that fixture?
Yeah, it was odd, wasn't it? Because I think, by my reckoning, that'll have been the first time we've ever gone away to Warrington, certainly in the Super League era, as favourites to win the game.
Yeah.
So you kind of went there more in expectation than hope for once, didn't you? And I think, especially once they'd named their 17, there's a few missing. Yeah, I think realistically, you sort of had to go and expect us to go and turn in the sort of performance that we're used to us doing now, aren't we? We go through sort of the motions of what we do, and we do it well, and we pick results up, and that essentially is what we did. I think they're a strange side, Warrington, at the minute, aren't they? Especially like the host of people who weren't fit on Friday, who are now back in the team for next week. I don't really understand what they were trying to do last week, to be honest.
To be fair, I think they're a bit of a car crash at the moment, which surprises me with the fact that Sam Burgess keeps getting linked to every NRL potential vacancy that comes up, as if Sam Burgess has suddenly got this Midas touch and can turn teams into gold, where at the moment, I mean, you only have to look at the incidents prior to the game in terms of the player who was released and who's then gone on to sign for Oldham and the turmoil that they've had there. It looks a funny old camp, and at the moment, when you look at their place in the league table, I think they're where they should be. Of course, though, Martin, the Rovers of old, when we went to Warrington, we were all, like Cam said, it was always in hope. It was never an expectation. I think we put that to bed last season, didn't we, when we beat them? And the question was, we win in the Northwest. And then we went and beat St Helens. We followed that up with another victory. But now these games, you know, we don't travel in hope. Like Cam said, it's more of an expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, last year, I think that was a season-defining victory at Warrington, because I don't think we've done very well there in the past, and we really kicked on from that performance. And like Cam said last week, it was I was a little nervous, but nervous because it's before the Challenge Cup. I was going to pick injuries, suspensions. No, I didn't think for 1 minute that was going to lose. Yeah, Warrington were weak. They had a lot of players missing. But Rovers, there wasn't brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. I just think they did put on a solid professional performance. Probably didn't reach top gear, and just did enough. I felt that if it got tight, we could have upped it another gear or two. But we just sort of kept them at arm's length for the majority of the game, and we just saw the game through. No injuries, no suspensions. So yeah, it was a great performance, and I'm hoping for something similar on Friday.
Yeah, prior to kick-off, Cam, a lot of people had obviously one eye on the Challenge Cup final, and there was lots of predictions about who should play, who shouldn't play, you know, in terms of resting players. Obviously, Hargreaves, that was taken out with Woody Peters' hand because it was a forced miss. Was the lineup what you expected, or was you expecting something different?
Is that to me or Cam?
Yeah, go on, Cam. To you, Cam.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much what you expect. Whenever we're able to name a sort of relatively full strength side, that's pretty much what you get in it. I think I've been quite happy to see Whitbread getting a bit of a go in the back row, because I think in all likelihood he'll be doing that at Wembley, won't he? So I think the more sort of reps he can get in that role, and he's not bad, is he? Like when we went to Headingley and he had to shift into the back row there, you would never have known that he won a seasoned back rower. So I think, yeah, getting him there and getting him some minutes playing a little bit wider is going to stand us in good stead. But yeah, other than that, it was exactly as you'd expect, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Martin, you back on?
Yeah,
absolutely perfect. And when you look at how the game panned out, 31 points to 12 victory over Warrington. Half time it was 14 points to 6. Rovers running in some fantastic tries. The Rovers do a really good job at the moment of keeping teams at arm's length. So it looks like the opposition are in the game. In reality, they're not, because Rovers are able to then step up, kick on, you know, change a different gear. And this is another performance similar to the Challenge Cup semi-final victory over Catalan, where, yeah, Wire were in the game, but was there really? And I think this is a real trait of the Robin side at the moment, how they're able to really go for the jugular when it presents itself. You know,
I think that's been a story for about the last month. They've just seemed to be just doing what they need to do. Not going crazy. Like you say, keeping teams at arm's length, and being professional. I think Wembley's been in the coming up, and it's been on the players' minds. Perhaps it's a difficult one with the players, and it's going to be interesting on Friday to see what team. Me personally, I would go strong after what happened a couple of years ago. I think it's important to keep that momentum going, keep players sharp. Warrington are going to go into that game cold. There's going to be, I don't know how many players haven't played for 5, 6 players who's going to go in that game without playing for a few weeks. You know, is that a good thing? Personally, for me, no. I think Rovers are going to be battle hardened, and it's important, I think, to try and keep that going on Friday. Yeah, you run the risk of injury, suspensions, but if you think like that, you'd never feel your strongest team. You've just got to go for it.
Yeah, Cam, it was Jack Broadbent who came with the first try of the game for the Robins. I mean, we was talked so fondly of him on the Robin pod in terms of his versatility and what he brings to the side. Effortless try for him, really, wasn't it? You know, he's become so used to either stepping back inside or being able to run the line. He's got a bag of tricks that he can just put out there, and another try for him. And he's a player now that when all the players are fit, Cam, it's a big question mark over where Jack Broadbent then fits into the side, isn't it? If you look at how we lined up for the starting game of the season. But there's no doubt at the moment, Jack Broadbent is absolutely imperative to the side.
He isn't like you say, when we are fully fit, you would struggle to find somewhere for him, but you would find somewhere for him, wouldn't you? Like, I mean, to be fair, he was brilliant in the semi against Catalan, and he didn't let us down at all playing fullback in any of the earlier games. But when Morg is there, I do think he takes us up another level. And same with Gildart, when he's fit and firing this season, he's been faultless, hasn't he? But then, so was Broadbent. So, I mean, I think he was getting a spot on the bench, wasn't he, when we did have Morg and Gilly both fit. So, yeah, it's a nice problem to have, but you'd find somewhere for him, wouldn't you? He slots in. He's well worth his place at the minute. You couldn't justify him not getting a game.
No, and when you look at the side that did line up, I mean, there was a lot of talk, wasn't there, about Cam, the players that Warrington were missing, you know, Sam Powell, George William, Matt Sneed, Vaughan, Ashton. People forget as well, Cam, how many injuries the Robins had going into that game. It wasn't exactly like we was at full strength. I was totally, you know, every player fit, available to play. And I think that is absolutely credit to the players at the moment, Cam, in the way that whoever's the next cab off the rank just fits in, slides into the side, and you're almost like not noticing. You know, I look at Noah Booth as an example, how he's just fitted into the side, you know, top of the table, and he's just come into the side. And this is one of something we've spoke about previously, about how the best time to put younger players into the side is when you're doing well. The Robins, we've had to put young players into the side years gone by. You know, you look at the last 15 years, out of desperation. And it's been a problem that we've had where we've been calling on supporters, yeah, we want these youngsters to come in. Don't get me wrong, Noah Booth isn't necessarily probably the best example because he's not come through the academy. But if you are going to blood somebody who's an experience, you do it when you're doing well. And that's what St Helens and Wigan have done for a great number of years. That's what Leeds did before. When they was at the top of the game, they was able to bring these kids in, and then they propelled them, and they had a long career at the club. And hopefully, we're now starting to see a glimpse of that coming through, Cam.
Well, like you've got a perfect example of that on with the two teams we played last Friday, haven't you? I mean, I know Bill Leyland's been injured. Well, was injured last week, but look at how Bill Leyland's been slotted into Rovers' side compared to his brother going over and filling in for Wire when they've sort of come into the season a bit under strength and they've chucked him to the Lions, and he's getting slagged off from pillar to post anywhere, whereas Bill Leyland's come in and had little cameos, and you don't. There's no noticeable drop in quality in what Rovers are doing, is there, when he's on the pitch? So that'll only help boost his confidence going forward. So yeah, I think definitely we're doing it the right way, aren't we? And then yeah, Friday's another opportunity for someone like Aribi Doro to come in and have a crack, and yeah, Leyland again to hopefully get a bit more of a kick of the ball and give him a chance to kind of run the game a little bit. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be playing him from the off, but yeah, I'd hope that he'd get a few more minutes. We'd get to a position where we can maybe give Jez a bit of a rest because he'll be vital in a fortnight. But yeah, you can't. There's not a lot you can pick holes in with what Peters does, is there?
No, I tell you what though, there'll be something that Willie Peters can pick holes in, Martin. Of course, Broadbent came up with the first try of the game. The first Warrington try of the game won't please Willie Peters whatsoever, will it? We saw Curry with a great pass, and then we saw Russell go over for his first try of his professional career. The way that Minchella and Lewis just failed to connect in terms of that defend, they're not things that we can get away with. You know, you get away with it once maybe, but when Warrington are at full strength in a Challenge Cup final, they're the kind of tries that set you apart from winning and losing the game. And I think Willie Peters always likes to have something to go away from the game with, and there's no doubt that defensive effort from them two is something that he'll be focusing on.
Yeah, when I was watching the game, I was almost aghast as to how how that try was let in, because it hasn't happened for. I can't remember the last time we let a soft try in like that. That's how good the defence is, and it was such a shock to the system. It just a bad read all around from Lewis and Minicello. Mistakes happen, and you're right. He'll take that away, and they might double down on the defence to make sure it doesn't happen again, because it was such a shock. It was such a shock because our defence is our main attacking weapon in effect, because everything's built around that. And you're right, you can't afford that in the big games. There's going to be some different personnel on the show from Warrington. Yeah, there's Williams will be back. That's a cast iron certainty. And the centre will be back. It just needs sharpening up. It does need sharpening up. We had a couple of personnel missing. Whether that had an effect on it or not, I don't know. And you're right in what you said earlier about Warrington having some injuries. You can go through Rovers players. There's, 4 or 5? If they would all fit, they would all have been in that team. The 𝗫𝗄𝗃, Hargreaves, McIlaurin, Reece Martin. Everyone's forgotten about Reece Martin. Hopefully, he's going to be back in about a month, I believe. So so we've had injuries, but no one's really dwelled on them. We've just got on with it. It's the next cab off the rank, and it's been great, and it gives another player a chance, to get the spot in the team and hopefully get a spot at Wembley.
Yeah, Cam, we followed that try up with tries from Davis and Mikey Lewis, and at half-time, 14 points to 6. In terms of scoreline, it looks pretty close, doesn't it? But in reality, was you fearful of that, like Warrington coming back? Because for me, it felt like once Rovers was in front and they put a couple of scores on them, they was never going to come back. And I think, is that arrogance? I don't know. Because I'm so used to seeing this side now just nudge themselves in front and then back themselves in terms of defence. And I think even at half time, a little bit like the Huddersfield game when we was only 4-0 up, I was never in doubt of the result. And even at half time against Warrington, I was never in doubt. I just thought, we're going to kick on from here. And I think it's, don't get me wrong, Cam, it's an unnerving position being a Rovers supporter, being in, you're always checking yourself back about games gone by, years gone by. But I just thought there's only going to be one winner from this at half time.
Yeah, I think that was sort of, you get like a bit of a vibe from the crowd as well, don't you? And like going down onto the concourse at half time, everyone seemed pretty assured that we were going to get the job done. I mean, we've scored first in every single game this season, haven't we? We've never gone behind to 0. And we just we never look hurried or panicked, do we? I think that try that they scored he's hit a decent line, but he's not very good, Dan Russell, is he? You really shouldn't be letting players of his calibre sort of just waltz through your defensive line like that. And that was almost like the wake-up call that they needed to frame themselves a bit, wasn't it? And then, other than sort of slightly later on in the game, they never really gave him another sniff, did they? I think they had a lot of play balls in the 20. But...
After second half as well, it was Rovers have scored again. I mean, Burgess at the moment, he can't wait to get on the end of a pass, can he? Whether it's he's running close to the try line, whether he's running from 30, 40 metres out, he is absolutely sniffing these passes out. And Michael Lewis is, at the moment, putting him on a plate for him as well. I mean, that miss-out pass for Burgess going for the try. Also, I mean, what I will say is I think Lewis Wing for the reserves, which was a fantastic result for them, 26 points to 25, victory over Warrington, and they played as a precursor to the game. The Lewis Wing try, the Joe Burgess try, was absolutely almost identical in terms of the finish, in terms of going in at the corner. But the pass from Lewis to miss out the man, and I tell you what, any kid who's listening to this, about if you want to score a try, run onto the ball with pace and power. It's amazing how far it gets you. If you stand still and catch the ball, don't be surprised when you get tackled. And Burgess every time, Cam, the lines, like we saw against Huddersfield, the lines he's running, he's an absolute finisher at the moment. And there's no wonder he's been talked about the England team as well, and whether he's a possible selection for the Ashes series.
Yeah, well, they're both brilliant, aren't they, at the minute? I mean, everyone, I think, was concerned when All went back to Leeds. Tom Davies has come in, and there's no one in the world would swap him back for Ryan All now, would they? But Burgess, like, he plays the game in such a brave way, doesn't he? Whether it's coming out of our own end, sort of getting up and taking high balls or going in the corner. There's nothing really that you could pick fault in with his game at all. But the pair of them they're both hungry for work all the time. They both get us off to great starts in sets. And if they get half a chance, they put it away, don't they? They get it finished. There's not two better wingers in the league.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Martin, we're going to laud Burgess. There's no way we can't not mention 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗃. I mean, the next try of the game, that fantastic break from 𝗵𝗂𝗀𝗃, and then he follows it up. Then he has the pass on to 𝗂𝗃. 𝗂𝗃 goes in for the try. 𝗵𝗂𝗃, what a fantastic run of games. He had 46 games consecutively played before he was rested. A well-deserved rest, no doubt. 𝗵𝗂𝗃, he's just a player who's absolutely Rolls Royce at the moment. Just so consistent. And do you know what, Martin? He looks so happy, doesn't he?
Oh, God, yeah.
So happy playing in this Rovers side. He talked after the game, after the victory over Warrington, about how happy he was being at the Robins, how his family had settled, how they're enjoying it. And you see that out on the pitch now, because he's just a player who played with a smile on his face. He's a tough player as well. He's not just someone who's an attacking threat. He backs up in defence as well. But, you know, that break from 𝗃𝗂𝗃, the way he followed up the play, you know, absolutely fantastic try. And when we're talking about Burgess, about his threat, 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗃 just Mr. Consistent at the moment.
Yeah, he's been outstanding. He's been absolutely outstanding. Him and he's probably arguably the best centre in Super League. Him and Wardle, they always sort of mention them in the same breath, don't they? They're the best centres. And like I say, consistency, coming out of backfield, they taking the ball out of backfield. When the wingers take the first couple in, then he comes in for one, and he's always making yards. He's always making yards in contact. And then he does the good things well. He makes the hard things look easy. You know, that pass at pace and things like that to 𝗂𝗃 inside to go. You know, when you're running at pace, you know, it makes it look easy. And his consistency is fantastic. Yeah, and I think there was an interview, wasn't they, saying that he's so happy off the field. The club have looked after his family off the field, so he's got no issues there. So all he's got to concentrate on is playing, and it's showing in his performances. He's been outstanding, and did he get in the dream team last year?
Yeah,
he's a shoo-in for the dream team this year. I'll say it now, he's a shoo-in because there's no other centre. Maybe Wardle, but other than that, I can't see anybody touching him. It's been fantastic.
I'll tell you what, Cam, if you was a winger, you'd love playing outside of 𝗃𝗂𝗃, wouldn't you? Because it puts things on the plate for you. I mean, that Catalan semi-final, Davies spared 2 tries that he could have scored. But every time 𝗃𝗂𝗃 plays, literally, he puts things on the plate for you. And as a defender, if you're on the opposite, you don't know what he's going to do. You don't know if he's going to pass back inside. You don't know if he's going to go outside. You don't know if he's going to go himself. You know, so he must be an absolute defender's nightmare, but a winger's dream as well to play with.
Yeah, there was a couple of times, wasn't there, against Warrington, where he's going on that arc round and he's just kind of goose stepped and then gone. And he's got a good turn of pace, hasn't he? So it was actually Morg, wasn't it, both times, who was kind of wrapping round, which another thing, you can see how hard they're working by the fact that Davies will take the ball in before, and then when 𝗃𝗂𝗃's made an half break, you've got Morg there for absolutely no reason, busting a gut to get there on the outside, and then he's just got magic hands, and he'll just slip you the ball, and then that's it. And yeah, like you say, he's tough. He does the sort of rough side of the job. He relishes it, doesn't he? He gets stuck in. He's sort of. I've noticed him this season, actually, whenever there's been a bit of like a push and shove, he's Johnny on the spot and he's getting his face in the way. He don't mind that side of the game at all.
Well, he's a big bloke as well, isn't he? I think if you actually when you see him, and you only probably realise when you get down to pitch side, he's a big bloke. He's tough, so no wonder he's getting in the faces. The Mikey Lewis drop goal, Cam, for me, that was no accident. That looked like it was something he wanted to do in terms of maybe Wembley. You never know what might be around the corner, and the fact he nailed it, I think, was a deliberate. He didn't have to do that. They could have played it out. I just thought, for me, that was an opportunity for him to have a go and see what he can do. And I think maybe it wasn't an accident, because there was no need for him to go for that 1 point at that stage. We haven't seen at any point this season where he's done that. So I did wonder to myself, is he just having a go at the hooter just to see if he can do it? And actually, he bloody nailed it, didn't he? Without doubt.
Yeah, I think when you've got Mikey Lewis doing the good things that he doesn't actually need to do, that sort of have no real benefit, he's just doing them because he can. That's when you've got him in the mood, isn't it? That's the best version of him. Yeah,
and Martin, I tell you what, defensively, what an effort. They had 32 players of the ball in our 20 metres, and they only came up with 2 tries. I mean, opposed to us having 19 players in there. But it just shows you how they back each other up in terms of defence. Every time. Do you know what? It's a side that relishes defending. They actually celebrate and almost enjoy shutting the other side out more than they do them scoring a try. And that's a great trait to have.
Oh, yeah. Well, we haven't got the best defensive record in the league for no reason. Obviously Peters is big on that. He's brought that over from Australia. And it's our form of attack, innit? We attack on the back of our defence being so good. It can be so brutal at times. A little shout out to going back to Warrington, Tyrone May. I thought it was outstanding. He don't get the plaudits sometimes because he's a strange type of player, isn't he, Tyrone May? He sort of drifts in and out. He swans about. He doesn't seem to break sweat, but my word, he was outstanding, and he was brilliant, and got a nice try. He actually run 20 or 30 yards, which is unusual for him. But his offload and his passing, his distribution, and his defence as well. He's a defensive standoff first and foremost, and that's why Peters likes him. But the defence as a whole has been fantastic. I just hope we can. Whether we can tie him down another year with the Vegas coming up, if he fancies it, does May. Something's going to happen. Something will have to happen regarding that, Johno, shortly, I think, because it needs putting to bed, doesn't it?
You're on mute, Johno.
The same, Cam, it's such a pivotal position that in terms of if he's leaving, we do need to tie down somebody else, because if he's going, the market for them positions is a big market. It's an expensive market, and also the at the moment, we need someone to come in and be either equal or better. Them players, there's not many out there at the moment.
No,
unless you're looking at Nathan Cleary, who potentially, with his partner wanting to stay over in Europe a little bit longer, is that the potential? And also, I mean, look, this is fantasy talk. Don't forget as well, Tyrone May is one of his great friends, and of course, there's no doubt he will be telling him, if he gets the opportunity, what a great experience it is to come over here. And this is the thing with like 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗂, saying how great his experience has been. Jared Wara-Hargreaves telling people what his experience is. Sean Kenny-Dowell. It all snowballs into better players coming over from the NRL potentially to here, because they want to know that if they come here, they're going to be playing for a top team, but they're going to be looked after, they're going to have a great time, and it's going to be enjoyable. So, yeah, I mean, we've slightly digressed there, but Nathan Cleary for Tyrone May, would you take that, Cam?
I'd take it, mate, but I'll probably put the Euro Millions on Friday. I think it's about $1 million, and I reckon I've got about as much chance of winning that. So
yeah. I'll tell you what.
Though, if I do win it, we'll get him over because he'll be on a fortune.
There you go. Right.
Give him 10 mil.
like fingers crossed for you then, Cam. I tell you what can't be sniffed at as well is the defence's effort from the Robins in terms of no Warrington play made over 100 metres. And Matt Duffy, who is more like Duff Beer, 22 carries, 92 metres, average gain of just 4 metres. And I think that is great credit to the Robins defence and how they and the game plan about how they was able to shut him down. At the moment, he's Super League's top meter maker, and we actually made him look very, very ordinary.
I don't think Lewis gets the credit he deserves for how good his kicking game is nowadays. His long range kicking has come on in leaps and bounds, but his kicking sort of from about 30, 40, like at the end of a decent set, he's just burying the back three 2-3 metres away from their try line constantly, and then you've got May steaming onto him, trying to get over the top of him. But even when he's not able to do that, he's just killing the play. They're starting from such awful field position all the time because he never gets that kick wrong. He's only got 2 foot to play with, and then it's a 7-tackle set. But how many of them have we conceded?
Yeah, and also, Martin, you have to go back to John Abdul, where we thought he was the only one who could kick it. Mikey Lewis couldn't kick at all. You know, very rarely would he be able to put the kick in. Well, he must have done a lot of work himself to put himself into that position where he's able to make them kicks. And also, if you look at him now, physically, he's so developed, isn't he? He's such a specimen of a player. He's. I think that is why his kicking game is so good now, because he's able to physically do it. Whereas before, and don't forget as well, he's still so young now, but previously just didn't have I don't think he had the muscle capacity to be able to do it. Whereas now, I think he's like Cam said, his kicking game for me is, and also he's kicking off both feet. It's not just right or left; he's kicking off both. And he presents the defenders with so many problems when he does kick it because they don't know where it's going to go.
No, his kicking game has improved immensely over the last season and a half. Like Cam says, kicking to the corners, keeping them penned in, 5-10 metres from their line, and then we attack them with our defence, and the opposition are just smothered, and they struggle to get to the 30 by the time they come to the last tackle. So, yeah, his kicking has been great. His kicking, goal kicking as well, has been good when called upon. In the semi-final against Catalans was good. He's going to be called upon at Wembley to do that again. That has improved, over the course of last year and this year when called upon. He is, and he's got a great showing his strength. You mentioned his strength and how well he's built. His try he scored where he shook off a couple of defenders, swatted them off, and when he's in full flight, 10-15 metres from the line, there's not many people can stop him, and that's forwards or backs because he's just so strong, and he's got a low centre of gravity as well, so it makes it even more difficult to stop him. So yeah, he's been outstanding. He certainly put the work in on the kicking front.
Yeah, 100%. Cam just saying on Michael Lewis, there was maybe a little bit of an issue in the first half, wasn't there, where he came and in back play, the Warrington player kicked it, and then Michael Lewis just left a little bit on him, and people were wondering whether it'd be something that the match review panel would pick up on. Thankfully, it didn't. But it was just at that time, it was just something quite unnecessary, didn't need to happen, and that's just that little bit of a question mark that still hangs over Mikey, isn't it? That he has that little bit of dog in him still, which is great, but I mean that play, for instance, was so unnecessary.
Yeah, he'd had a bit of handbags with Duffy in that when he was square marking at the tackle before, hadn't he? And then just like I don't know what the point of it was. He just sort of hangs one on Ratchford, doesn't he? And then he knows as soon as he's done it what he's done. There's now in it. He's never going to do him any damage or anything. So it would have been outrageous for him to get banned for it. But you did stand there in the ground and think like, Christ, don't slip back into this. Like it's been ages since you've done out like that. So don't let sort of the pressure of it all get to you now. But then 10 minutes later, he's up the other end, skinning Ty and diving over an so that seemed to sort of, whoever it is who does it, whether it's Minchella or he does it himself or it's Peter's getting the message on, they do seem to be able to harness that bit of aggression that he's got and channel it in the right way now, don't they?
It's a great point, Cam, because ultimately we've seen a couple of seasons gone by where it wouldn't just be that. It was then the next thing. And then before you know it, we've lost him. Whereas now, you know, he responds and he's got a good team around him. We're going to talk more about Michael Lewis later on because we've got a question that's coming on question time. Before, though, we do that, and before we talk about St Helens at home on Friday, we're going to bring Steve Till in for Robins Revisited. Steve, welcome to the Robin Pod again for Robins Revisited. Of course, we take on St Helens on Friday night at Sewell Group Craven Park. I'm always interested to know where you're going to take us back to. So take it away, please, Steve. Steve, you muted yourself, so you need to unmute yourself.
Right, I'm going to take you back just a couple of minutes because for those people who watch us on YouTube rather than just listen to the podcast, where we're here, I'm Rovers Till I Die, you'll show a clip from a Rovers and St Helens match or the end of a Rovers and St Helens match, and it's the Floodlights Trophy in 1977. And what a match that was at Craven Park. It was the first time Rovers had ever beaten a team from Lancashire in a trophy final. And in fact, it was the first time Rovers had won a cup tie against a team from Lancashire in 52 years. And the trophy in question was the Floodlights Trophy. And for those that don't know, every Tuesday night we used to gather around our screens and watch as Eddie Waring commentated on this trophy tournament, which was restricted to teams that had floodlights. And Rovers got theirs in the 60s. And so, anyway, we come to 1977, December, and Rovers were really on form at that time. They'd beaten Castleford in the semi-final, 23 points to 5 at Weldon Road, and it was a good cast team. And Eric Ashton was coach of St Helens that night for the final. He described it as the best performance he'd seen from a Rovers team. So we packed Craven Park, 10,099 people, the highest attendance in a Floodlights Trophy match ever, who turned out to watch Rovers play St Helens and Rovers deny St Helens. The first half was touch to and fro. Mike Smith opened the scoring for Rovers after an assist from Phil Law. But the try was equalised by an individual effort from Peter Glynn, the St Helens winger. So it was 3-3, and then in the 15th minute, Len Casey broke through to 𝗕𝗂𝗏𝗏, and it made it 6-3. That became 11-3 after Paul Rose crossed over for a try converted by David Hull. So half-time came, no further points. This despite Saints having both a scrum and penalty advantage throughout the first half. Anyway, we got to the 52nd minute, no further points, but then an up and under from St Helens was taken by 𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗏, who made about 40 yards and was before being tackled. But eventually the ball was swung wide to Mike Smith, who broke clear to instigate a sweeping move, which featured David Hall, who fed Steve Hartley 10 yards out for the dancer to cross the whitewash, making it 16-3 on the scoreboard with David Hall's conversion. Those people there was a video doing the rounds at the time, soon after that match, and it was 101 rugby league tries. And if those people who've got that video will note that the first try that was shown was 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗃 in the floodlit final. But before he scored that one, we had Paul Rose feeding Mike Smith. He broke to feed Millwood. As Millwood was tackled, he slipped the ball out to 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗃, and 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗃 got his first try. But it was his second one that was outstanding. A terrific move. It was started by Millwood, continued by Steve Hartley. Hartley the cover looked as though they'd got to Hartley, but across comes 𝗫𝗫𝗀𝗃 on a darting run from the wing, and he touched down under the post. And that's the try that's shown on 101 great tries. So that was it. Rovers were 26 points to 3 up. St Helens got 2 consolation tries from Peter Glynn and Eddie Cunningham. And as I say, that was Rovers' first ever success in a competition final. And that led us to great things, because that gave us the confidence to know that we could beat anybody. You talk about, last year we were talking about, can we go to Lancashire and win? In those days, it was, could we beat a Lancashire team? And that proved that we could, and we went on, and from there we won the Championship, the Cup, the Championship, the Premiership, and everything else. It was a great performance by Rovers, and let's hope we can get another one this weekend.
I'll tell you what, Steve, I'll keep you on for the rest of the podcast now, because I'm always interested to get your views and opinions. Cam, round 13.
Can I just interrupt you there, Johno? Can I just say, I've been watching the whole show, and I just want to go back to that Warrington try we talked about that Russell scored. I'd followed Duffy throughout the match. I watched every move he made. And just before that try, Duffy had gone left. He'd made a move to the left, and then suddenly he came to the right-hand side. And as he came to the right-hand side, you could see Rovers' attention being taken by Duffy. And that, because of the angle that Russell ran at, both Minchella and Mikey Lewis were watching Duffy. And of course, they missed the angled run from Russell. Just a small point, but they put it right in the end.
Yeah, and something they're going to have to be aware of in the Challenge Cup final. Play Cam, round 13 we take on St Helens, but it's not just a normal fixture against St Helens, is it, Cam? Because of course we've got the Challenge Cup final following that. Are you expecting Willie Peters to put his strongest available side out?
Not quite. No, I don't think so. I think Broadbent will get a rest, and I think Dino will get a rest. Just with what happened with the disciplinary on Monday, I think Adley's now sailing too close to the wind, isn't he? For such a big game, for him to pick up 1 point, and that's him done in it. And then Broadbent, where we have got the cover of. His name's escaped me. Played against Salford and
Booth.
Yes, Booth. Noah Booth. Where he can slot into the centre for Broadbent, I think I'd give him he's played a lot of minutes. He's played in different positions. Let him have a fortnight running as a fullback in training. Get ready for the final. I'd be playing the rest. I'd be starting with as strong a team as you can play. I'd probably start Whitbread in the back row again, just to sort of get those additional minutes into him playing in that position. And then, ideally, when possible, I'd be giving Bill Leyland a run at 9, try and keep Jez Litton wrapped up in cotton wool. I think we can't sort of disrespect Saints, can we? I mean, they've not had an easy start this season, but they're still a good side. And I think we sometimes are in danger of forgetting that Wigan aren't the only other side in the league, where we're competing against a whole host of other teams who there's a good chance that in September Saints find themselves back at Craven Park playing for a place at Old Trafford, isn't there? So let's turn up and treat the game with the respect that it deserves and let them come back in 4 months' time knowing exactly how hard it is to come and get a result here.
Yeah, I mean, Martin, there's a lot to consider in this fixture. I mean, this isn't the Saints side that we faced back on the 7th of March when we defeated them 20 points to 10 over at their place. They've come back with 2 victories. They beat Huddersfield 46 points to 4. They beat Catalans 40-0. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not exactly the toughest opposition that they've faced, is it? And previous to that, they've lost 3 in a row. So, you know, it's what you read into that. Don't get me wrong, though, as well, they'll be coming into this game thinking they're buoyed by the lack of points they've conceded. They'll be buoyed by the points that they have scored. They'll be buoyed by the fact that they've arrested a little bit of a slump in form. And they'll also think that they can catch us cold in terms of the Robins now having a Challenge Cup game. This is the penultimate fixture before that. But when you look at the squad that's going to be facing St Helens, it's a strong side, isn't it? There's big question marks, like Cam said, around Dean Hadley. Don't forget as well, he got injured in that game against Warrington, let alone the fact that he then got a discipline charge, which a grade B dangerous contact to the charge to the head. 4.5 points, 6 points is a ban. So now not only is he running the risk of getting a ban in terms of any disciplinary action, he's also nursing a muscle injury, but he's supposed to be okay from that. Jez Litton was the only other player who picked up discipline points from that game. He got 1 point, now he's on 2. What do you reckon is going to happen, Martin, with Dean Hadley? Is he playing or not?
If I was a betting man, I'd say no. If he wasn't walking the disciplinary tightrope, I think he'd probably play him. But because he is, and you only need a point or 2 to get over that threshold, and he's had a little bit of a bang to his calf, I believe, and he's played big minutes, I think I'll probably give him a spell. And Doro will come in. We've got to see what this Doro's made of. There's been big things expected of him. I think Doro will come in. I think Leyland will play bigger minutes. Will he rest Lewis and play Richardson? I don't know. I hope not. I think you've just got to keep going with your strongest team. And like you said earlier in the show, anybody with any slight niggles or etc., just take them out the firing line. We've got the squad to do it now. So yeah, I think Leyland and Doro will come in, and yeah, possibly Booth, because if Broadbent goes down, we'll be struggling for Wembley to fill that position with Arthur Moore being cooked hard. So yeah, he could rest Broadbent, although he's on great form. And as a player, when you're playing well, you're scoring tries and you're winning games, all you want to do is play. You want to play. So it's an interesting one. He might put it to the players to see what they think. I don't know. But we'll wait and see. Whatever team it's going to be, Johno, it'll be a strong team.
Well, I'll tell you what, Steve, there's one player who we know is definitely starting, and that is Eric Doro. Peters has already mentioned that he's going to be in that side. Could he be a replacement for Hadley? Who knows? But it's a real funny moment, isn't it? Because we saw against Wigan in 2023 when Peters made a raft of changes to the team. I think he vowed never to do that again. And of course, we saw what happened. Although it's interesting to point out, he did say that we didn't lose that game because of the changes he made. It was about the moments in that game. But I think he's very much now about changing his philosophy around we play our strongest team available. Now, when someone says, I'm going to play my strongest team available, there's a little bit of a caveat to that, isn't it? Because
what is available?
Yeah, what is who is available, and also if this was a standalone Super League fixture without a Challenge Cup final next, you know, who is available. So it's a really interesting one. And also, I think we got a little insight into what Peter's thinking was by the fact that Richardson was included on the bench against Warrington, and that was obviously to possibly spell Lytton. Also, it gives an option to then rest May or Lewis, depending on where we are in the game. Do you expect to see Richardson on the bench again? Because I don't see him starting, Steve, but I think I think he might be on the bench.
It could be, yeah. I mean, when you're looking at those potential changes, I think it's a certainty that Broadbent won't play. I think it's a certainty because, as Martin said, he's only got to get a head injury. Any of them have only got an HIA, but the fact is that he's the only fullback, or is the best choice for fullback, shall we say? And if he plays and got a head injury, then we could see Mikey Lewis ending up at fullback at Wembley, which we don't want, do we? So I think the Broadbent thing.
So in that scenario, Steve, then we're going no Booth, aren't we? We're going Arthur Morg at fullback, no Booth at centre.
Well, that's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what will happen. I think that's why Booth's still in the squad, and it's a good, you know, Willie Peters is waxed lyrical about Noah, and it's a good chance for him to show himself up against, the top class opposition. I agree with what people have said about St Helens and Wigan. Saints, when they're strong, and it'd be a good chance for Booth to prove himself. I think Hadley will, although Willie Peters did say that the injury is just a contact injury rather than anything deep-seated, I think Hadley deserves a break. He won't want it, no, none of them do, but I think he does deserve a break. And like everybody else has said, we've still got a hell of a strong squad. We've had weaker squads that have beaten St Helens in the past. Just a little insert here. The last 2 years we've beaten St Helens at home. Kendall's been the referee and Thaler's been the video referee on both occasions. This time round we've still got Thaler as video referee, but we haven't got Kendall as the main referee. We've got Liam Rush. That worries me a little bit. Well, anyway, as far as the team's concerned, those are the two major changes: Doro for Hadley and Broadbent. Broadbent drops out and lets Booth play at centre.
An interesting one for me is Cam. Is that Whitbread? We've talked about how he's been playing that second row. Of course, extended minutes in terms of what he normally does in terms of the prop position. I wonder if this is a time where he might be rested because Ajani Wallace, you know, we signed him from Bradford a few years ago. He's never really featured. He's coming to the squad. Whitbread, for me, is one of the most pivotal players in the side. Just what he brings in terms of his industry, his engine, his weight rate, his tackle rate has gone up. Is this a chance maybe for Wallace to come in? Although are Wallace and Tanganoa, for example, too similar in terms of the way that they potentially got like explosive pace.
I mean, he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't seen a lot of Ajani Wallace at all. I think since he's come in, he's sort of been a bit of a Scarlet Pimpernel, hasn't he? Nobody's seen hide nor hair of him, and Peters never seems to really mention him. So I'd be surprised if he came into the side. I'd be even more surprised if he was to come in, if it was for Whitbread rather than James Batchelor, because I think Batchelor's got a really important, really difficult role to play at Wembley. And with Booth being cup-tied and Morg, he's going to have to play in the centre, isn't he? And I think it's an opportunity to get Whitbread playing in the back row. Have we lost Johno?
Yeah, we'll just talk about it.
Yeah, it's a chance to get him more experience in the back row. And if you're going to put AJ Wallace in, then yeah, I'd give Batchelor the week off of the two.
I think what Steve said earlier as well is Broadbent is so pivotal. If he gets a knock, it could disrupt the team massively. The same could be said for Batchelor, isn't it? Because if he goes down, God forbid, who's your other centre? Who would play that other centre? I was talking
sort of
like
bring
Louis
down
Gorman coming in,
cards,
people like that.
Yeah, or you're putting someone really bizarre in the centre from the.
I know. You can overthink it. I think you can get so tunnel visioned, and you're thinking about what if this, what if that, what if the other. I think you've just got to trust in the process. And these players we're talking about, Whitbread and Batchelor, the tough, durable players. They've got good engines. They're very rarely injured. Touch wood. I don't want to put the kiss of death on them. They play big minutes. They're playing every week. They're in the squad all the time. Yeah, there's arguments all around it, what you can do. And like you said, that J.A. Wallace, I've never seen him play. I think I've seen him play once for the reserves. Yeah, whether he's got what it takes to play at this level, I'm not sure. I know he's in the squad, but I'm not sure. I think
without sort of being disrespectful to him, this must be getting on for his 50th game week as a Rovers player, and they've not been falling over themselves to put him in. So,
no. What does that say?
Yeah. I think I do think that Broadbent and Batchelor are the two that kind of, I suppose 𝗂𝗂𝗃 as well, but they're the ones.
You could go through the whole team.
Yeah, they're the ones where the knock-on effects are massive, aren't they?
Yeah.
𝗂𝗂𝗋's had his break, hasn't he? He had that break, and they don't want to be pulling too many people out. This St Helens match is still a key match. We stay top of the league. We beat St Helens. We're gonna have got. I think have Wigan got Catalan?
No, Wigan have got Salford.
Oh, Salford. Well, that's even worse, isn't it? God knows what the bookies are handicapping that one at. So we're going to gain points in the points difference column, and so we want to win this game. Otherwise we go second in the league. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
I tell you what, guys, what a great job you three have done.
Where have you been?
My laptop decided to turn itself off at the worst possible time. So, Steve, Cam, Martin, what a fantastic job you've done, which needs me to, after you three probably been waffling on for too long, to bring us to... Right, let's start with the questions. We've got a few to get through. Cam, I don't know, I'm asking you this because you've got no idea whatsoever. I heard Martin and Mickey, Reece Martin and Mickey McAlorum ahead of schedule and being kept quiet. Any news on them?
Well, Peter's mentioned them, didn't he, during the week? And to be honest, if anything, it sounded like Martin, at least, might actually be a little bit behind where they hoped he'd be, didn't it? They were targeting the Waker game, weren't they? And then Peter seemed a bit non-committal on that the other day.
Do you reckon it's a bit like a Trojan horse? Like, the longer you keep people guessing, the less you don't know when they are going to come back.
Well, he should just come out like Sam Burgess has done and say, oh, well, we found this new approach and he's doing real well. And actually that 10-week injury is now only a 7-weeker. Just come out with a different way of saying that they're just going to needle him up to the gills before the game.
Well, Max need.
Yeah, him as well. But I did hear about Mickey McAlorum a couple of weeks ago. I heard he's ahead of schedule, and there were whispers that he might be ready for Wembley, but I don't think you can put him in at Wembley.
Stranger things have happened. Next question. Jules, she asked on Instagram, how's everyone's nerves for next week holding up? Is everyone ready to shout louder than ever? Martin, are you nervous? I'm a bit funny. I'm not that nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm not as nervous as I thought I would be. I'm just trying to convince myself that typical Rovers supporters, oh God, what if this, what if that? But I'm sort of trying to convince myself that we are the better side. We are the better side. We've got the better players, we've got the better team, we're the better side. And if we just play to our potential and just go through what, you know, the process is what Peters puts in place, we should win this game. We should win this game. But it's Wembley finals, isn't it? Funny things happen at Wembley. Nerves, sin bins, injuries, you know, and you start overthinking it and you start getting real nervous. But I am going to be nervous, but I'm quietly confident that we are the better side. We are the better side.
I think we'll win. We play to our procedures exactly as we have been doing. We strangle the teams. They're going to want to throw the ball wide. They showed it last week that they wanted to throw the ball wide early. But if we play to our procedures, every man gets his defence correct, we'll strangle them early on. And you can have all the sneak kicking you want. And, you know, Williams won't be fit. He'll turn out. But we put a player out back in '86 that had a hamstring injury. And look what happened there. We got beat. It cost us the game, perhaps. And I think that Williams, while he, you know, you can say he's had all this treatment that the Leinster Rugby Union Club have devised. But will it work? And I'll tell you what, a place to be found out is Wembley.
Yeah, I'll say what. We're heading over to Facebook now for the questions, and I love Facebook because you get questions like this. Well, it's not even a question really, and I'm guessing he must be. Well, I don't know who he supports because it's not even full sentence. It's play you full team plant pots donut. So I'm guessing that's donut. Want no excuse if Saints beat yous clowns. That's
a Wigan fan. That's definitely.
Cam, you must be able to decipher that. I've got that's Facebook. Anyway, here's a genuine question. Cam, I'll stay with you. If OKR lose to Saints and Warrington this week after, will they be crowned the biggest bottlers in the history of rugby league?
I think we could lose to Saints, and then if we beat Warrington, nobody will.
Yeah, that's from Sam Davis.
But I think, like Martin and Steve have just said, if Rovers turn up and it's the best Rovers performance they can give, they win. There's no way that Warrington turn them over. They're better than them. They'll be playing with a 6, 7, and 9 who've played maybe half a game of rugby together ever. And like, I don't know about you, Johno, but 1980 was 13 years before I was born. But I can shut my eyes and see Steve Hubbard dotting that massive ball down. I'm about ready to watch a player that I actually associate with playing for the club that I support doing something like that and watching something like that back 100 times.
Exactly.
As much as I like the history of the side that went to Wembley and won, I've heard enough about them now.
And then players as well, they're the first ones to say, we need somebody else to take it off us now. It's almost like they're ready for that mantle to be lifted. Next question. We've already, Mark, would you leave Dino out as not to risk a ban in the final? I think we've got to answer that. Martin, Gary Lee, chip spice, yes or no?
Yes.
Easy one, isn't it? Rob Coles, do you think any chance, Steve, we have of retaining Tyrone May? Last couple of games I've seen him, he's pretty much left pitch. They're fairly sharpish. No, he's cut from his own cloth. Not sure if he's always done it. I mean, Tyrone, we already spoke about that earlier. It's just the big question mark over it, isn't he?
Who knows? I mean, I'm certain Willie Peters is doing everything possible to keep the lad. He wants to play with his brothers. He's an Australian who loves Australia. I'd love to see him stay. I'd love to, because for me, he's been him and Nicol, the 2 players of the year. You know, Tyrone May, I've watched him since day one at Rovers, and his defence is outstanding. You mentioned it, Martin. His defence, more than his attacking play. I think he was criticised for his attacking play more than people didn't even see his defence initially. But boy, he's been outstanding, and I'd love to see him stay. But whether he will or not, who knows?
Cam, Adam Wadforth, he says, hear me out on this one because it's a long one. Do you think the club should challenge the fact that a former Warrington coach is on the disciplinary panel and charged 2 of our players, yet nothing for the player who prevented Burgess from scoring a first half try with a high tackle, and also wasn't punished during the game? Similar to when we face Wigan in key games and the officials are from Wigan. You wouldn't get this in football, but yet Rovers don't seem to publicly challenge these things.
No, I don't think they should. And I think we must be the sport with the most petty fans who obsess over the most ridiculous things.
Good point. Yeah.
They're not picking up points because Paul Cullen is the old Warrington coach, are they? They're just not. Because he hasn't banned anyone.
No. And I tell you what, I know for a fact Paul Cullen speaks to the coaches and officials at each club, and the coaches have a direct line to him as well to discuss. And there's an accountability there, because if you have that opportunity to be able to speak, so it's not like a judge ruling on a sentence and it just being presented to you. There is a bit of not negotiation. There's a conversation to be had. Now, whether you agree with it or not is a different thing or not. But it's not black and white in terms of how these verdicts are delivered. But it's a good point. I mean, to be fair, do you know what? I get sick of. It's more social media than real life in terms of Martin. Do you know when? Oh, we've got so and so. They're going to give. You know, I think some of our best officials are actually. I think Kendall's good. I think Kendall showed in the quarter final cup tie when we played that lot. I think Moore's one of the best ones. I think, though, what the problem is, and this is what Super League struggled with, is there's clearly a top-level group of referees, and then there's everybody else. And I think what we've not got is that real consistency of every match official in every game being at the same level. And I think that's a challenge for Super League and in terms of the match officials.
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see if they can sort of tempt ex-players to get more involved. We
might as well get Sam Tompkins in, because he did it on the pitch for while he was playing. So it's not that much of a shift, is it?
Yeah.
But ex-players are in the judiciary. They're in the MRP. They look at the videos. They're the ones that are studying the videos.
Maybe the fourth official, Steve, when it goes to video ref and things like that. Because a lot of the things, it needs a little bit of common sense, and players can relate to what's gone on in that incident because they've been there and done it, where the likes of the fourth official, who's the one who just commentates himself for about 5 minutes, is just retired as a referee.
Fairley.
And oh my God, he just talks and repeats himself, and I don't think he's ever played the game. And I just think if you get ex-players involved in that aspect of the game, I think it'll speed it up, and I think you'll come to a decision from a player's perspective, because they'll have probably experienced what happened in that situation, and bring it to a decision. Whereas Thaler, he just drones on and on. And he's never played
funny story about Thaler. After the York semi-final, obviously we stayed in the ground, clapped the players, and then if you was there at the game, people remember the big Marks and Spencer food hall that was outside. So we're just walking around the stadium, literally probably 15 minutes after full-time hooter. Ben Failer's walking in his full RFL kit with his bags for life under his arm, marching to Marks and Spencer's to do his big shop.
Yeah, but if you remember that game, there was no video ref. That was the round where there was no video referees at any game. And didn't the game flow? And didn't the game?
Good.
It lasted maybe 85 minutes instead of an hour, 2 hours, as it often happens with Ben. And I think that showed exactly where we should be. We should go back to no video refs. How about that for a controversial input?
Well, let's leave it on that one still. A huge thanks to Steve for Robins Revisited. Cam, thank you for making your Robin Pod debut. Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Once again. Next week, we have got lots. We've got a bumper Robin Pod because there's so many people who want to get on for the Challenge Cup final preview. It's going to be a magnificent week. But before then, of course, don't forget we've got St Helens at home on Friday night at Sewell Group Craven Park. If you go in, be loud, be proud, and make sure you get behind the Robins.
Singing a song. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing. When the red, red robin comes bob, bob, bobbing along.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.